Hi, this is Ari Kopel and Serena, your hosts with Shattering the Matrix. I have a fantastic guest today. A lot of you know him already, and this is Andrew Bartzis, and he's known as the Galactic Historian. Andrew, you with us today?
Yes, I am, Ari, and Serena, thank you very much for having me on, and been a pleasure doing interviews with you, and look forward to having a wonderful 2 hours here, and thank you very much.
No, thank you. We so appreciate and honored to have you here. Andrew, what is, especially for the new listeners that may be the first time that they hear of you, what is a galactic historian? Can you express what that is?
Sure. It was a choice I was given. There were 4 people before me that said no. And what it means is I'm connected to the Akashic records of this planet and 20,000 other planets. And that is a representation of every planet that has dramatic investment of karma into this world. This world we live in is in a disunity, paradox, remedy reality. Because of timeline genocide wars 52 million years ago, there suddenly was, instead of one first species of Earth, there was 72 first species of Earth. And the way that came was one species came in and decided that the species that was here on Earth wasn't cool, so they used timeline manipulation to erase that entire 108 billion people that were living here, and then inserted their own sentience here, their own people here. And then that race was erased, and another one was erased, and another one was erased until you had 72 first species of Earth.
Wow.
And the Galactic Historian is to represent all of the people that were erased in timeline genocide wars. The Galactic Historian is linked to every planet that's ever been a part of this timeline genocide concept here, from the rise of Lemuria to the fall of Atlantis. Each and every aspect of this world has been recorded into the Akashic record. And every time a sentience is erased via timeline genocide, we literally lose a part of our soul, quite literally. It is no longer allowed to be in this universe because of the way the paradox results from having yourself erased from a timeline, and then using timeline concepts to bring yourself back into the timeline, and then erasing yourself and again and again and again, to the point where you're dealing with 35 or 40 paradox situations that occurred between 7 and 22 million years ago. So there's tremendous chunks of our souls that are literally missing.
Right.
No matter how much soul retrieval you do, you'll never get the full piece until we resolve the paradox remedy reality we're in right now. And the Galactic Historian's concept is to bring forth the Akashic record in the sacred neutral perspective without any dogmas or political concepts, strictly as the raw data, and the presentation of that is from the sacred neutral perspective, where it has no polarity in it. My heart, my mind, and my soul are interlinked with this planet's concepts of the Akashic. The Akashic record exists within the crystalline structure on the crust of Earth. And that crystalline structure is a network of crystal people and crystal mineral communities that are literally recording the essence of every sentient that's ever lived on this planet, from rocks to amoebas to humans to fish to goldfish to Pegasus, whatever you want to call it. If they existed here on any dimension or any time frame, above or below or within, their sentience is recorded, and it's recorded in a manner that has no political concepts or no emotional concept. It strictly is, this is the way that this person has grown, this is the way this person has ended, and this is everything that's in between. And the presentation of the sacred neutral guarantees that there is no misinterpretation, no misunderstanding, because it's in an intonation and cadence that is linked into the vibration of Earth. When I read the Akashic record, I don't do it in a trance. I'm live, I'm fully available, I drink coffee, I hold a crystal, I'm typing on the computer. I'm able to function as a normal person, but there's a part of me that's 1 second in the future, part of me that's 1 second in the past, a part of me in the North Pole, Aurora Borealis, where Earth's Dreamtime sentience is, and then there's a part of me in the South Pole, where the astral worlds are, where the immigrating souls are waiting to have their opportunity to come into a new baby and live a life here. And by being linked to all those spots, I exist in the ever-present mighty I Am Self moment in the sacred neutral perspective, in alignment with the presence of Earth, and able to create an intonation and linguistic patterns that people begin to understand from their heart space is a reading of the sacred neutral, and I'm a presenter of that. But the presentation is the sacred neutral, that of the Akashic record.
Okay. Now, the Akashic record that you're talking about is, you're speaking, of course, now with respect to the Earth one. Are there different Akashic records for other worlds?
Every planet has its own Akashic record.
Okay.
I'm linked to the Akashic records of 20,000 other worlds.
Wow.
When I'm reading Earth's Akashic record, it is the Earth intonation. When I do species identification in my readings or anything to that effect, where I'm identifying your past lives on other planets, I'm also using the Akashic record of other planets. But at the same time, each Akashic record has a slight difference in perspective of the sacred neutral. One may be a masculine planet, one may be a feminine planet, one may be an androgynous planet. So there is a difference. And that's me, the presenter, riding the razor's edge of the sacred neutral, guaranteeing my heart space is linked into that of the dream consciousness of those other planets, providing as much of the truth without the loss in the interpretation or translation.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. And then you were mentioning something in reference to those wars that went on, and it seems that it seems that the bad guys tend to get the edge all the time, or tend to win. At least that's what it looks like. What is causing this? What's actually what triggered this? Where did this whole thing start? If you can address that.
Well, it started when Earth is a brand new planet. Earth, we'll go to 60 million years ago. Earth literally was a being like you and I. It was a very powerful six-dimensional entity that had lived lives on many other planets, and it decided that it wanted to become a planet, and that it invited whole swaths of soul family from other planets and other universes to come and immigrate to where it was going to form her new shell body of a planet. And when she began forming herself, she came up with the new concept that she was going to be a seventh dimensional galactic seed planet. And a galactic seed planet is very different than any other planet out there because it has very special womb chakras, W-O-M-B. And these womb chakras are where sentients live on the surface and constantly have their DNA upgraded, as well as become co-creative biological conceivers that are able to bring brand new life to other planets that have Blake Akashic records. These are planets, these are people that have Ascensions that have decided to make brand new planets. They've made a contract with the solar system so they can form their shell of their planet. And then the Akashic record can be filled in by the galactic seed planet. So there is a massive encyclopedia of DNA wisdom that any soul can incarnate and choose from. If they want to be a blade of grass, a tree, an ant, a human being, an insect, so on and so forth, there's an entire data bank of DNA they can choose to incarnate in and choose to make soul contracts with that planet to be a part of that themed wisdom that the planet's going to nurture over this very extended period of time. So Earth is a galactic seed planet. Our moon that we have right now is even older than Earth. And its purpose is to literally psychically transport the DNA knowledge and the actual creations to the blank Akashic record planet. It's like the big nursery where things go and grow and then get psychically transported to a brand new planet's blank wisdom. So Earth itself was a whole new creation, a whole new concept, because it was to literally seed a brand new galaxy with life. And the seeding of this galaxy got interrupted. Earth was in its forming stages where sentients from other universes and other places had came here and brought their technology. So literally Earth was 30 times its physical volume size than it is right now. So Earth has shrunk because her energies have been shrunk over the last millions of years. Once Earth was finished being formed, there was another galaxy that had been nurturing the war concept. War was a way to create entropy. Entropy was a way to create creation and inspiration for self-exploration. This galaxy had no knowledge of war whatsoever. We live in a complete 100% free will universe. So at every stage of the game, all entities must understand their entire free will, mighty I am self, sovereign presence. And a mighty I am self, sovereign presence that is in a concept of war suddenly came into this galaxy by permission from a prime creator from another galaxy and permission from a prime creator of this galaxy to create change. Well, the lower ends, just below prime creator level, those high angelic beings in our galaxy were not ready for war, had no concept of war, had no defenses for war, and these beings from the war galaxy came here and captured Earth because it was the greatest prize ever, because literally they could allow them to make biological machines and sentient machines of war. So Earth was captured and then teleported away from its original place. And when it was done, it was very much wounded. It was to the point where Earth herself gave out a cry to the entire multiverse and the universes beyond, and this triggered a massive awakening of spirits that began migrating towards Earth. And this is known as the first migration to heal Earth. While this migration was taking place, the forces of domination and control and darkness had seated themselves on Earth and brought their technology and fortified the astral layer of Earth, knowing that there was going to be a massive migration of spirits who were going to incarnate here and begin the healing process. The forces of darkness here did not want that healing to take place. They wanted to lower the volume of energy of Earth and keep it in a situation where it was producing war sentience. This went on for about 3.5 million years until finally the first waves of migrations came here and began incarnating in such a way that they bypassed the astral defenses in the astral worlds and eventually literally overcame the breeding patterns that the dark forces had here and literally recaptured Earth through spiritual breeding. Well, at this point, Earth itself, it was healthy enough to shed off the forces of darkness and to begin to retune to its original purpose. At that point, the dark came back and captured it again and teleported again and wounded it again. And it was such a difficult concept because once you teleport it again, all those migrating spirits that were going to one XY axis suddenly had to change direction and go another direction. At this point, beings from around this galaxy and around the universe, it was such a difficult concept that the light forces of this world, of this galaxy, had to begin to understand what warfare was and how warfare existed. There was the physical warfare of battle with swords or ships or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And then there was the spiritual breeding war, where literally a concept is to outbreed the planet with your concept, your theme.
Gotcha.
And once you get the majority of the breeding population here, you can incarnate faster your beings than the others.
Right.
And Earth as a seed planet would nurture whatever is here. Technology was put over these 200 separate womb chakras to literally saddle the Earth so it only produced a certain type of sentience. When the good guys captured it back, they took that technology off and put the pyramid grids in. Now, the pyramid grids were already here as part of the creation of Earth, and there were many layers of fortification to the pyramid grids so that you couldn't get into the Earth sentient axis. Earth is a planet that can naturally teleport itself, what's called a unity consciousness drive, where when there's unity consciousness on the planet, they can agree to move the planet and it won't harm it. It can go anywhere in the universe because that's its purpose, to literally seed new planets. So Earth can also bilocate in multiple galaxies at once. So it can be in one place and 30 other places at the exact same time and still do its service to seed life in the new galaxies. The forces of darkness simply saw this as a beachhead into anywhere of invasion. So they chose to lessen the physical invasions and create spiritual invasions on tens of thousands of worlds at once. And this is what triggered the light forces here to rapidly ask for help from other universes that already understood what war was, a massive migration of warriors and dream warriors and essentially mercenary units who would decide to come here and teach the new guys on the block what war was in exchange for energy or in exchange for a place where they could recover from their own wars in other universes and eventually return to their universe. So this brings us to the fourth time Earth was captured. The good guys had recaptured the planet and then literally laid waste to the forces of darkness on the physical level of vessels that were invading. And this is where the good guys had their most difficult trouble. They had recaptured Earth, and both the light forces and the dark forces were so burnt out on spiritual warfare, so burnt out on physical warfare, they had no resources left, and very few souls were volunteering to go and do this. So there was this big lull where nobody was fighting anyone. And this is where our scenario comes in.
Right.
There's a group of 15 multidimensional beings that are 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th dimensional beings who chose not to become planets. They're very, very old, very bored. Some of them are part of the first creation of this universe, and others are immigrants from other universes. And they kind of work like an accordion. They'd stretch really far out, and then the back of them would catch up. They'd stretch really far, and the back could catch up. These beings are so big, they cannot fit into one physical body here on Earth. So what they did is they saw this warfare, and they said, this is a prime opportunity for us to play the chess game on a really grand scale. So what they did is they came and incarnated here on Earth. And during this neutral time where there was not enough forces to really make major invasions, there were still battles on Earth, but they were very small. So these beings, understanding what spiritual breeding warfare is about, mass invested their sentience into Earth. So they became a rock, they became a tree, they became a human, they became a cat, they became a dog, and began the incarnation process to become soul family to Earth and any of the new incarnating beings or older incarnating beings who are dedicating their soul pattern theme to be a part of the Earth, no matter what it was dedicating. Well, these beings began to invest more and invest more until finally they became soul family to the original seed people on Earth, both light and dark, who had captured it. So there was no way to block these beings out from the fortified grid because they had soul family access. Until finally these beings hyper-invested and literally outbred both the light forces and dark forces, and they became 40% of our breeding population. That's 15 beings.
Wow.
There were 183 billion people on the planet at that time. When you do the math, you realize quite literally they controlled the entire theme of DNA breeding.
Wow.
In a DNA pool that had already had thousands of races that had mass invested spiritual warfare and physical warfare there. So there was technology galore there, DNA technology there galore, and the fact that Earth was a galactic seed planet that had tremendous powers.
Right.
These beings literally hijacked our incarnation grid,
Wow.
hijacked the war between light and darkness, and began manipulating the forces of light and darkness away from Earth to fight each other at even more intense paces. And they would lure both light and dark forces here so that they could capture their ascended masters and kill them.
Wow. Now, are these beings that you're talking about now? They're not dark from the dark. They're not from the light. They're neutral. They're just bored, and they're just.
No, they're not neutral.
Oh, they're not neutral.
They are here to stick the finger in the eye of Prime Creator and saying,
Gotcha. Okay.
"We are the new Prime Creators in this block, and we are going to take over this universe.
Wow.
Stop us."
So they're the hijackers, huh? Pretty much.
They're the hijackers.
Huh. Are these? Do they have a different terminology that we know, or a different name? Or would these be considered the archons, or no?
They created the Archon grid.
Ooh, gotcha.
Okay, the Archon grid is beings that they have been in domination and control of on other planets with their particular theme of domination and control. So you have a scenario where these multidimensional beings are real people on this planet. There's 7,300,000,000 of us on this planet right now, and about 17% of our population makes up that 15 beings.
Wow. Now, are any of these beings incarnated as what we know as the Illuminati or Cabal or anything like that you know of?
That is correct. They are congressmen, they're businessmen, they are senators, they are presidents of other countries. I'll describe one: the Middle East. All of the main government officials that are in charge of the black projects, the money, they're all these beings. There's all one being.
Wow.
You have Europe, which is another one. You have America, which is split between about 5 of them because they chose to work together for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Okay, because they got there at the same time. They understood what light and dark was doing, and their goal was to literally hijack this whole process and have as much fun. I've described them as teenagers on a Coke binge many times.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're playing a multi-dimensional chess game, leapfrogging through time with multi-dimensional time travel technology, purposely predicting timeline genocide or creating timeline genocide by influencing other species to come here and break universal law.
Wow. Serena, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, actually, I have a few questions by now.
Okay. I bet you have a few questions.
Oh, boy. This is great.
So what I have done is I put them into the text box there so that you can refer to them and we don't forget them. So you can answer them at your own pace. So the first question, if you can see your text box there.
I see it.
Is about the moon, because there are some people who say that the moon was brought in. It's not a planet. It's not real. It's a holding base for dark frequencies and black ops, etc., etc. The grays, and it's where astral bodies are being held hostage, where they are recycled back into this world. So these are some of the stories that are going around about the moon. That's number one. That's the first question.
I get that question all the time. I'm going to answer what the moon is. At one point, there were more moons for Earth, and this particular moon actually literally existed in this exact space and time that we are right now. But there were no planets around it. The moon is essentially a highway marker stone that said, this is the size of the universe 52 million years ago. This is literally where the ever-expanding universe was 50 million years ago, 100 million years ago. And every second, the universe is getting bigger and bigger based on the amount of sentience that immigrates to this universe or is created within this universe. So the total potential of energy of sentience creates the expansion of the universe, and the moon is considered a marker stone that represented the sentience from many, many millions of years ago. The moon is also, I'll describe it as a multi-dimensional hotel where beings from other universes can come and stay in the moon and still interfunction and co-create within the moon and understand what this universe is about. It is a way station where souls can come here and learn about this universe and choose if they want to immigrate into this universe. It is also a technological creation by the first light beings of this universe. When there was one galaxy in our universe is when the moons like our moon were created. There are about 3,300 that were created. Many have been destroyed or were recycled by Prime Creator to make other galactic central suns so that you could expand the galaxy more and more and bring more sentience in. There's only about 3 of these moons that are left right now, and the other ones are in suspension so that you cannot create a new galactic ascension machine. It's absolutely vital that you have an anchor that represents the total potential of sentience to create the galactic ascension machine. The galactic ascension machine is where they took 66 most prime dramatic lines of drama pollution, of karmic pollution, and put them all into one anchor point and said, all right, everyone has to migrate there to resolve any of this karmic pollution based off of the warfare between Mars or the issues with Saturn or the time-traveling genocide wars with Earth. And this put in a situation where all the migrating patterns of spirits that needed to resolve karma had to come to that marker stone of the moon, and they put a sun there, and they put all 66 planets here. So the moon, as you were just describing, has dark technology on it. It has all that on it too, but that moon is essentially a ninth-dimensional intersection hotel where all sentients can find a place to coexist in a micro bubble of reality. Even though that micro bubble of reality is the whole moon, every bubble of reality is layered on top of each other. And when you learn how to use the moon technology, you can exist on all bubbles of reality within the moon.
Okay, so are you saying that these Ascension seed planets all have a moon like this attached?
No, there's only one galactic Ascension seed planet right now, and that's the Earth. There are no others that were created afterwards because of the actual difficulty of what would happen if it was captured again. They put the nix on any new ones being created.
So the other two moons that you mentioned,
they're in suspension.
In suspension. Okay, that's an interesting thing about the moon. Okay, my second question, based on what you have already spoken about, is about, you mentioned spiritual breeding several times. Can you talk about what that is?
We have a DNA skin suit, and the skin suit that we have right now is the technology absolutely everyone wants. Spiritual breeding represents, if you're a soul and you're born in a planet and blah 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 somewhere, you have a set of codes that allow you to go to your sun and to go to other soul relations to your sun. When people form a sun, they make a contract with the galaxy to saying, I'm going to become a sun, and I'm going to invite souls to come and incarnate on the planets, or I'm going to make contracts with planets. So you create a theme of life, a theme of conceptual light energy that is sentience, expansion, and consciousness exploration. The sun is the waypoint that souls come to, and it is also the Stargate system. So if you have the DNA wisdom of our sun, you can go to millions and millions of other suns, whereas like the Pleiadians at the very beginning could only go to 10 or 20 different suns through the spirit expansion process until they got the technology to literally to go to this place so they could get the hard code into their DNA. Spiritual breeding is literally looking at the DNA wisdom that a light body of a soul carries and said, this is the soul code of this planet, this is the soul code of this planet, and if you want to go to those suns, you need that code to go to the Stargate in the sun so you can go through the tunnel between two suns and come out on the other side. So Earth's DNA skin suit has codes to all the suns in the galaxy and all the suns in the universe, even ones that aren't created yet.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay. One other question about the sun. It may be a little trite, but I'm curious, actually. I saw a video yesterday, a few days ago, that showed the sun, and it appeared that there was a huge planet or something by the sun about the size of Earth that was connected to the sun, had a tether like something connected into the sun that seemed to be pulling energy out of it. There is a title going around with that video, UFO, huge Earth-sized UFO gets energy from the sun, or something like that. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't know what it is, but I saw it and I thought it was interesting. And then when it separates itself, there is like a blast of plasma, but the tail goes with the planet or whatever that sphere was that was connected to it. So that sphere with the tail breaks off, and then there's this plasmic, movement. And we're just wondering what that was.
Well, there are other planetary-sized vessels that are created via energy and sentience creation. What you saw there was literally a vessel the size of Saturn, Mars, or Jupiter, or something that size that came through the Stargate that had a few million pieces of sentience in it. It had millions of people inside it. And when it comes through the sun like that in the Stargate, you see that tail. Quite literally, it is the representation of what it took to pass all the soul codes of those people through that planet ship, through our sun, so that they actually had immigration status on the soul level and the physical level to be inside the Galactic Ascension machine. Our solar system is cut off from anyone getting into it unless you have a specific soul code to get in here. And there were enough ascensions on that planet ship that they were able to share the soul codes in a unity consciousness drive shared with our sun's soul entities who oversee the immigration patterns here. So this has happened before, and there have also been negative forces who have tried to force their way through and create that same tunneling tail process. And to disrupt the Galactic Ascension machine so they could force incarnate a few billion soldiers during a mass invasion all of that's been stopped since 2008. None of that will happen again. The codes have been reinforced in such a way, no matter if they're reptoid or not, even if they have DNA representation, if they have timeline disunity paradox within their DNA, they cannot get in anymore.
Wow.
So are you saying that was something like some kind of galactic, cosmic, elitist, special forces passport?
Yep.
Huh.
Absolutely. Passport's a good way to describe, because it's all about the immigration status here. Here on Earth, we have 3 timelines. You have an above timeline, a middle timeline, and a below timeline. The below timeline is where new young spirits choose to become animal spirits in the food chain, and they live here until they gain enough sentience to get onto the central timeline, center timeline, which is the graduation timeline. Graduation timeline is literally where you go through your ascension process and you learn what all your soul codes mean, and you learn what the responsibility of having a skin suit that can go to anywhere in the universe, even to places that aren't created yet. The above timeline is where our spirit guides live, our ancestors that are choosing to have physical incarnations on a timeline just above us. Earth was literally set up with 3 timelines, above, center, and below, where the vast majority of planets in the rest of the universe only have 1. To understand what time is, let me give a quick description. We see time as timeline, as date timestamp, as 12 o'clock, but we have different calendars, we have different daylight savings times, we have different time zones around the world, and that is a how do I describe this? Time is a social agreement here. And in fact, the rest of the universe does not use time as a social agreement. And that's one of the fundamental ways that they use domination and control to confuse us how the reality works. The way the rest of the universe grades time is you have a solar system that has a sun in it. And that sun represents the total potential sentience in a wave sign that's going around the galactic central sun. There are times that solar system may go into a very dense part of the galaxy, and therefore its sine wave of energy is compacted very small. And there are other times that it's in a very light part of space where its sine wave is very extended. When you look at the sun as a sine wave of total potential of sentience, and then see that there are multiple planets inside that sine wave, each planet has a subcarrier wave of time represented within the master carrier wave of that solar system. Earth has 3 separate timelines within it, where all of the other planets in our solar system, all 66 of them, only have a single timeline. So we understand the fundamentals of time as an expression of sentient potential in motion around the galactic central sun. And when we begin to see that as each person's own sovereign will expression of time, we learn that life is about experience, not about the counting of ticks on the clock. And experience represents age, and age represents the quality of experience.
Right. Makes sense. Serena?
Okay, and final question.
That's not your final question.
No, final question based on what has already been said. Is about the description of those 15% who became the 40 of the population.
There are 15 beings.
15 beings, excuse me.
Okay, that they're so big they can't fit into a single human body, and they are all the races.
Yeah, they are made up of all the races. Can you describe them a little bit more, please?
Sure. These beings are playing a massive multidimensional chess game, and every time they get the DNA wisdom of another species, be it reptoid, human, Pleiadian, Andromedan, they are able to make soul family relations to that species. And what that means is they can send a part of themselves to that other planet and incarnate on that world and create corruption, domination, control within a unity consciousness system. So it's a method of warfare as well as a method of setting up for spiritual corruption on other planets, because the goal of these beings was to be able to move Earth around and put it right in the backyard of the good guys or bad guys and use it as a trap planet to attract people here so that they could murder their highest light beings or ascended masters or dark masters, and then use technology to invade those planets and instill their version of domination and control and take over the entire breeding patterns of those planets. universe. Their ultimate goal is to literally take over the entire universe with their DNA wisdom through their hive mind control. Because there are millions of beings with a central hive mind that is able to allow all of their individual parts to make soul family relations or spirit contracts with a planet or individual people. That's why we're in such a tough scenario now. To get out of this, we must break soul family relation with these 15 beings that have hijacked this whole soul family concept. It's like if you're going to have a family reunion, you don't invite over the people that are the drunks and destroy the family reunion.
Right.
So what makes them so, well, it sounds to me like they are spiritually bereft or spiritually deficient in any virtue, actually. What creates such creatures as them?
The desire to become a universal prime creator inside a universe that already has a prime creator. They want to be the new kings of the block. They literally want to take the prime creator of this universe and say, no, we're going to consume everything you've created and become the new prime creator of this universe.
Wow. It seems almost like an aberration, something that
it's a parasite within inside the universe that is literally draining the universal DNA wisdom until they can literally overtake the entire wisdom of the universe, even while it's expanding. That's why they took up spiritual warfare and spiritual breeding processes, so quite literally they can become soul family to everyone in the universe, and then create spirit contracts to everyone in the universe that eliminates the prime creator from them.
What would create a parasite like that? How does it,
Pride, arrogance.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. What is is there a remedy? How does one, you said we've got to be able to maybe sever that type of tie with these things. How does a humanity, like what we express?
Starts with coming to understand how invasive and how extensive the system of domination and control is. It has us at the soul family level. When you begin to understand that, it has at the soul family level, the government level, the money level, the friend level, the monetary exchange for value level, the cultural. It has us at every point, and it has contracts with us to limit our full expression, our full free will, because these beings have been mining our consent of free will, taking our sovereignty away each and every time we're forced back into a system that is cannibalizing its people for energy, because these beings are literally using our energy to create the system of domination and control, to trap us in here so they can attract more people into the system so that it has more energy to trap even more people. And until we stand up in our sovereign free will as the mighty I am present self, as co-creating spirits with Earth, and shed off this negative soul family relations, we're stuck within this cannibalistic system that's just trying to expand and expand and expand and not let anyone graduate into ascension. They don't. They want more beings here. They want an ascension timeline that's so bloated with high energy spirits that can't get off, because they can just suck the energy out of them.
Yeah.
So I have another question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Hold on to yours.
Yep.
Hold on. So then this would obviously mean that they have control over the reincarnational process as well, obviously, right?
Well, reincarnation is not a concept that's originally based off of Earth. It was brought here to confuse spirits. The reincarnation process is what keeps you trapped. We are incarnating spirits. The actual way Earth was set up to make incarnations. Right. And each and every time you incarnate, you have a full life review of all past lives, present lives, and future lives, so you can adjust your contracts with different individual souls to make your experience more rich. In the reincarnation process that's been hijacked and been demonized and then been changed purposely, as when a soul dies that's stuck in this scenario and it's been stuck a while, it only gets to review this lifetime and then is literally kicked in the ass and sent back in with no change in their contracts.
Right. So the reincarnation is basically more accurately said as recycling process.
Correct.
So I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who may be listening to this and thinking, why would Prime Creator or God allow this to happen?
I get that question every show I do. And the answer is this is a total 100% free-willed universe. Okay? As powerful that statement is, when you look into it, it's a total 100% free-willed universe. That means we have to resolve the problem. Prime Creator has offered many solutions to it, but both the forces of light and darkness have put the middle finger up to the Prime Creator and said no. They're so far into polarity and have been played by these multidimensional beings so much that they can no longer see the resolution. When the timeline genocide wars start, both the light forces and the dark forces were committing genocide on each other. Therefore, they were into a polarity that wasn't truly light or wasn't truly dark. It was simply a separate form of interpersonal domination around the prime drama of Earth, the 66 planets here. And then you had these beings that were setting fires on the other planets to create more drama, until finally it created this nexus point of drama where all these spirits were being forced into the Galactic Ascension machine. And this is where the Prime Creator stepped in 460,000 years ago and said, here is a resolution. It set up an actual council of 12, 4 light, 4 neutral, 4 dark, and it said we must resolve this. The timeline wars have gotten out of control. They've locked down the solar system so nothing can get in unless it had that special soul code. Nothing can physically transport here unless it had a special code also. So whatever was in the machine at that time had to go from the 2,200 separate soul families that were invested here, and 3,000 separate races had to become one DNA genetic wisdom pool, and that would resolve everything that was going on in these prime lines of drama. So the forces of light, the forces of darkness, and the forces of neutrality both had 4 members on the council. They were given a period of time for 460,000 years to resolve all DNA issues, all drama issues, into a single human DNA species that incorporated everyone that was involved in the prime lines of drama. The light simply had, well, we don't know if we can do it. The dark said, well, we're going to continue to incarnate what we want here. And the neutral kept trying to adjust things. Finally, the dark guys basically went to the homeworlds of the neutral entities and said, we're going to kill tens of billions of your species unless you leave the council. The neutral eventually left, and there was a big fight between the light and the dark, and it turned out to be the 7 dark entities and 5 light entities were in control of the Council of 12. The Prime Creator's edict said, at the end of this, there is going to be an audit. And that audit is going to look at every spirit contract, every sentience from the top to bottom of the Galactic Ascension machine, and it's going to determine if the Council of 12 has resolved it. The basic rules that the Council said, they must maintain at least 1,200 breeding patterns that can go out to the rest of the galaxy and begin to heal the rest of the galaxy of all the drama that was created here. There are many thousands of species that are within 5 years or within 2 years of being completely and totally extinct because their DNA wisdom has completely run out, and they can't get new souls to come into their soul families because the drama here on Earth has prevented true incarnation into their homeworld because of the science they've used, where they've lost their sex organs, where they bred out their sex organs. So the graduating timeline on Earth is literally the one that's going to go out and teach the other species how to have children, how to be mothers and fathers. If you have an 80,000-year-old being that's never had a child before, she's not going to know how to be pregnant. They may be inclined to stick it into a test tube for 100 years and pull it out and go, okay, you're an adult now. Well, no, the youngest part of the child is where you bond with it. We are going to be that because our DNA is going to be able to intermix with any of those species that are out there. That was Prime Creator's whole concept. So the audit came March 20th to the 22nd of 2013, and it was determined that the Council of 12 has absolutely 100% failed. And now Prime Creator is instilling the walk-in rule and literally replacing the management system of the Council of 12 and all of those other systems that service it. That includes the Archon Grid, the Illuminati, or any of the other ones there. So they are literally changing the makeup of that management system. Well, there's something to know about that management system. It is so much in domination control and has so many soul contracts that force it into a single situation that it's very difficult to unwrap soul contracts that are based in time travel wars. And you have one soul that literally is the contract holder of 10,000 different time travel wars.
Wow.
And that's what puts us in the remedy reality that we're in right now. We are literally living in a paradox. The remedy was to create paradox so that all of those souls that were trapped during timeline genocide had an opportunity to come back here and reintegrate their parts during the graduation scenario.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that really is. I wanted to ask, you did mention something, it's a two-part question. The first question I wanted to ask before we go too far from what you just said, where does the ET abduction fit into all this?
It's about getting a DNA pool that they can take back to their home worlds to begin installing the DNA wisdom into clones or into the physical people that no longer have sex organs so that they can begin to have children. Also, it relates to the Stargate codes that I told you about.
Okay, right.
You know, there are others that still have sex organs and still can travel, but they're limited to where they can travel to, quite literally. And many, many beings that exist in this universe don't need to use ships, quite literally.
Right.
They can unmanifest a body and turn it into energy and travel anywhere in the universe that they want,
right,
as long as they have a soul code to get through to get into the Stargate of the solar system they're intending to go to. So a DNA body of us is the Porsche of DNA bodies, the Porsche of skin suits, because it can go anywhere. So they need to get a sample of us that is genetically compatible to the person that they're going to put it in on their home world. So they may need a DNA pool of a few thousand of us or tens of thousands of us so they can get the proper breeding structure that can be interbred into their DNA via science or physical breeding.
Okay. All right. Then the other
as well as turning our skin suits into weapons.
Yeah. Huh. And where does the...
Wait, what does that mean, turning our skin suits into weapons?
You don't have to have a soul in your body. You can be an artificial intelligence that can occupy space until a consciousness puts a spark of itself in there and gives it a program to attack and dominate, or defend, or be a light being. Many of the grays that you were talking about, they're not real people. They're just genetic machines that have a limited artificial intelligence in them. So if the high energy being from another world goes into its communication chamber, it can project its sentience into a gray or into 10 grays at once. And that's actually the way the rest of the universe functions on a commerce level. You don't literally need to get into a ship and travel to another planet. You just project your consciousness into a receptive skin suit that has your programs in it, so you can interfunction at any commercial level or any spiritual level with other beings on other planets.
Okay. Now, can you... I've heard some people say that... there's a very large population, if not everybody, probably I've also heard everyone on the planet has implants or been implanted. Have you heard that, and can you address that?
I can address implants. Implants are when they identify what soul family you are, when they identify what DNA family you are, what DNA lineage you are, and then what type of soul contracts you have. That's what they use to target individuals or groups of individuals with implants. Not everyone has implants, and in fact, there are many people who literally, as soon as an implant gets into them, it dissolves. So they're literally targeting soul family relations, because the soul family relations determines how well they can breed with the skin suit on a soul family level, so that they can have even more control over the skin suit after it's gone through a series of breeding processes. Now, there are other implants that are called etheric implants, and these just go into your energy body and are much more difficult to detect or remove. And these etheric implants can do things like give you the desire to have more carbs, or to keep your adrenal glands low on energy, so that you're more susceptible to mind control. And then there are other ones that trigger your liver meridian to no longer process heavy metals, so heavy metals build up in you. And then you combine that with the process of chemtrailing or putting metals in our water or fluoride, so on and so forth. You have these implants that prevent specific DNA lineages from literally progressing in their consciousness exploration because they are limited by these etheric implants of reaching their potential of energies.
And who puts these implants in place?
The Archon grid.
Okay.
And then there are sub-servers and networks below the Archon grid who maintain the implants and use these implants as observation systems. Something else that's intertwined, there's 40 pyramid control rooms on our planet. As I said before, there are 9 layers of fortifications on Earth, and each one represents a different layer of a pyramid grid. And these control rooms were set up at the end of Atlantis to prevent the multidimensional beings from literally taking full control over the surface timeline of Earth. Think of the nuclear missile submarines. You have 2 guys that turn a key at the same time and enter the code at the same time.
Yep.
Well, all 40 rooms would have to be occupied by all DNA lineages that have existed on Earth, and they would all have to be in unity consciousness to take full control of Earth. This was a way of literally locking out these beings from taking full control. So when we shed off these beings, we will have access to these control rooms so that we once again can literally raise the vibration of Earth so people will not be in disunity, disharmony, paradox reality, and actually have the space and energy and from the Earth to begin their healing process, where those that consider themselves unhealable will literally be in the realm of being healed when they choose to reclaim their sovereign free will within the energy of love, of the unity consciousness, in unity with Earth's dream world and its actual sentient mind.
And who's supposedly going to be manning those 40 pyramid control rooms?
No one. At this point in time, there's not enough of us that are in unity consciousness that are reverse engineering disunity consciousness.
Yeah.
And when you're in unity consciousness, it doesn't matter about the individual there because you're in unity consciousness agreement.
Okay. So I've been observing, and it's my observation. It's also probably Serena's, I don't know. But I've noticed that many of us who call ourselves light workers, some of us call ourselves light warriors or whatever the name is, we seem to be on different pages about a lot of things. Okay, it's almost like we're each one of us has our own universe as to certain ideologies and belief systems, and there's no way of getting together on the same page. Is this the way it's supposed to be, or is this a symptom of all the things that we're discussing here?
It is a symptom of everything we're discussing because everything's been hijacked.
That's what I thought.
You got to get back to the concept that you have over 3,000 separate races leapfrogging in time, creating timeline scenarios that counter another person's timeline scenario that counters another, that instills propaganda on one part of the timeline so a future part of the timeline suddenly accept this propaganda as truth. Now, many times before, I've took the rolled up newspaper and shook it at the nose of the lightworker industry because I've said this many times. They're the ones that are holding us back right now from claiming our sovereignty and free will because of pride, arrogance, and jealousy.
Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much for saying that.
Okay? Every light worker out there, the first thing you should do is heal yourself before you heal others. Cleanse yourself before you heal and deal with others. You're living in a disunity paradox world. And yes, even the most powerful light worker out there, even me, even you, everyone needs to cleanse themselves, to let go of the daily stress. And if you don't, you find yourself in a scenario where you're sharing your energies in a healing scenario with other entities trying to heal a being, either by your voice or not, and you are literally limiting that person from claiming their sovereign free will.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, I see a question here. How do you get rid of etheric implants? etheric implants are very, very difficult to get rid of, and it's about you understanding truly what sovereign free will is and how much your sovereign free will has been taken away from you. Etheric implants are in you because at some point in your past, present, or future lives within disunity paradox reality, you gave tacit consent, actual consent, to be monitored by something that was in the presence of a light being when in fact it was a dark being. And in fact, there are light beings that are posing as dark beings, and there's technology that can make fake light beings. There are many, many thousands of channelers out there that have had their streams hijacked by these artificial intelligences using etheric implants, and you would never know that was hijacked. The information stream may be pure light and goodness until they change one word.
Yep, that's it.
One word.
Yep, absolutely correct. Wow. And Serena's laughing. What are you also saying? Something about the salt and sage, Serena?
Salt is the
before we get there was another question based on what he already spoke of, and then we can get to that one.
Okay, go ahead.
What made us so valuable?
It's written there so I don't forget them. Yeah.
Okay. What's so valuable to all the archonic grid, etc.?
No. What made us so vulnerable to all of this?
Giving away of our free will over a period of 400,000 years, because we're trapped in a system that's constantly taking our energy away and never fully knowing that the remedy of the timeline was to put us in paradox. And the paradox was we all have to agree in unity consciousness to get off the timeline at the exact same time. That's the key. No one graduates until we all graduate.
Exactly. That's my point. Now, how many of us does it take to do that? How many of us does it take to stand?
Of the 7,300,000,000 people here right now, 65% actually have the graduation code, but the system of domination and control must accept the code. And the only way it can accept the code is when we remove all our energy from it by declaring our sovereign free will.
Oh, thank you. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Please, that's.
Are you familiar with my contract revocations for government media? Those are the example of removing your energy from a system by not consenting to timeline wars, by not consenting to exchange for value systems. All of those are a framework for people to understand how deep our system is intertwined with with our giving away of free will. By declaring our free will with all of our ancestors present, we break the paradox and allow ourselves to exist in no time. And in no time, we can resolve all of our paradoxical issues with the infinite energy of our higher selves. The higher selves can only give us the energy and the answers, but the ever-present, co-created, mighty I Am Self is the only one that can make the choice points to actually do something about it. The future cannot help us. The past cannot help us. Only the present I Am Self can make the changes in disunity paradox remedy.
Mm-hmm.
So how does a person actually begin to do this? By declaring some of these statements that I've seen. But how do you know when it's actually working?
Well, that's the thing. For these statements to work, you must understand that you have a layer of energy inside you that represents your total potential. The vast majority of people on this world are literally only operating on 35 or 40% of their total available energy every day. So for you to be at 100% energy, you would be a much more powerful sentience that can do things, that can do the exercise and not run out of the mental energy to continue to do it, to not live off of the drip drop of inspiration and hope that we give ourselves. You have the mental force and the connection to your dream world to follow through and manifest your dreams when you're at that high of a level. When you begin contract revocation, you are working on the micro voltage level until you've gained enough of yourself back that you're putting even more into it the next time, until you create the dynamo of removal, so that all of your sovereign free will begins to return to you in such a way that each time you are revoking a contract, you're revoking it in the past, in the present, in the future. And that means the disunity paradox remedy reality loses you as a support system. And when we as a species begin to do it on a scale that has the true voltage of infinity from our dream worlds, we can literally dismantle the system from within.
These contract revocation statements, are they on your website, or for those that have not heard these before?
Yep.
Okay.
You can go to andrewbartzis.com.
Okay.
And when you get there, you'll go to, you'll see the main page. And on the left, you'll see a bunch of tabs. And the tabs, you'll see one that says contract removal.
Okay.
And when you go there, you'll see I made a bunch of shorter examples because what I wanted people to do is to create their own. These are frameworks, and this framework is to show you how deep the system of domination and control is.
Wow.
Would you like me to read one? Or
yes, please.
Would you like to read one?
No, go right ahead. I'm on a screen right now where I don't even want to touch it.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I'll read the contract system for removing the banking system.
Okay.
Now, these have been out for about 2 months now, and I've had tens of thousands of people read them and report to me personal changes.
Oh, wow.
Intense people bursting into tears. I've had people read them live on other shows, and there have been intense energy returns from them, as well as a great weight lifted off their shoulders.
Okay.
The one I'm going to read first is the revocation of banking systems. I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present, and future beings, selves, and existence in this dimension and time stream, all time streams above and below the earth-centric sine wave of coexistence. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestors to create a unified, proper spiritual cord of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that have inserted fine print during the pre-birth and birth process. I call to the four elements, air, earth, water, and fire. I call forth the spiritual cord of equity with all ancestors in union with the migration patterns of all soul families incarnating on Earth Mother. I call the primary ancestor spirits of Earth Mother to come into the spiritual cord of equity and hold space for the reading and removal of all contracts dealing with the energetic exchange of value system. I call forth the Earth Global Dreamtime. I call to the unified Dreamtime societies of all Earth to come to the spiritual cord of equity to provide their complete wisdom to the sacred moment in which I reclaim my sovereign spirit authority for all exchange for energy for value systems. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the primary banking families. I revoke all spiritual contracts with all banking family crests. I revoke, remove, and dissolve all banking family trusts that use my name as a number for energy harvesting. I revoke all assumed rights used by the DNA-based kingships, lordships, or manor role contracts that function within all banking families. I hereby state I do not consent to the rule by the few. I do not consent to the rule by the banking families. I do not consent with the assumed authority of the banking families funding the free court system. I revoke all rights, privileges, and rules created by the family crest-based DNA lineage banking families to dominate and control the free court system. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts that define the bank system as being intertwined with my free will. I revoke all fine print within all of my soul contracts, past, present, and future, that deal with any banking system as a 3D matrix debt collection or energy harvesting system. I demand the instant repayment of all energy in 3D matrix representations of value. I do not consent to the use of corrupt courts as a means of judgment. I revoke all rights of 3D-based courts, assumptions of power with any 3D exchange for value systems created for the follies of the banking system. I do not consent to the use of my soul contracts as a means of energy harvesting from the primary banking systems created by the primary soul contract holding banking families. I revoke all rights to use my name in any form of banking family coat of arms. I demand the instant and permanent erasure of all signatures used to represent me in the banking exchange for value system. I do not consent to the use of my life force for any exchange for value system that is not in complete transparent with all transactional, spiritual, or 3D matrix. I hereby state that all bank-based buildings using sacred geometry have no power over my sovereign free will. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with all banking systems that use sacred geometry as a means of energy harvesting or a tool for domination and control. I revoke all rights, privileges, and assumptions with all buildings that use sacred geometry as fine print soul contract enforcement systems. I do not consent to any sacred geometry buildings to house, hold, or transfer my life force to any banking system on all of Earth timelines and coexisting dimensions. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with all sacred geometry systems that use my life force without direct consent from me and all of my soul family ancestors in complete agreement. I revoke all rights, assumptions, rules that create a new sacred geometry banking system. I hereby declare that all banking families and systems are now banished from operating in secret, covert, overt ways to harvest my energy in any way, shape, or form. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is now in dominion with me for all energy exchange for value systems. I call forth all ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of our free will at all times.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
That is a mouthful.
Wow.
What is the energy required to make those statements, Andrew? Is it, should they put some passion or energy or emotion or feeling behind it, or is it enough to simply state them?
Anything that you can summon during it, honestly, you have to get to an understanding that all of those descriptions there are how deep it goes.
Yep.
And the reading is about how deep it goes, because that's the reclaiming of your free will. The energy behind it, even anger, even a bit of hatred. And I know that from a light worker community, when you use the word hatred,
right.
instantly the hair goes up. But it has to have that spark of, this is mine.
That's right.
You took it from me.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of getting angry. I mean,
yeah.
I know a lot of people don't like hearing that, and I don't care.
Right.
Because I know it works.
Yep.
I've seen it work. I've seen people get helped by my anger and declaring that negative entities and forces leave a certain person alone at a certain moment. It was my anger and the passion that went behind it that made it effective immediately. I've done this hundreds of times.
Me too. It created a standing wave of energy that the entity could not be in anymore.
That's right.
I made a demand, and it happened. And my anger works fine. Once it was done, it was done. It takes 2 minutes.
Yep.
No more than
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, the voltage and amperage behind this, I turned it up pretty high, so there are people that are having chills up their spine.
Oh, that's what I was having. Are you kidding?
Okay.
Wow.
I'm experiencing you too, and I know that this is being recorded,
Yep.
but at the same time, I'm already experiencing the entire audience that's listening to this live
Right.
and in the archive.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay? Mm-hmm. I'm going to read the revocation of government.
Please.
Next.
Please.
Okay? I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present, and future beings, selves, and existence in this dimension and time stream. All time streams above and below the earth-centric sine wave of coexistence. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestor spirits to create a unified, proper spiritual court of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that have inserted fine print during the pre-birth and birth process. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts that deal with all government personalities, elected and unelected. I revoke all spiritual contracts with all family-based, crest-based government systems. I revoke all rights, duties, and responsibilities to all government entities that use my vote as a means of energy harvesting. I revoke all spiritual contracts with every senator, congressman, ambassador, Supreme Court member, presidents, vice presidents, and all cabinet members. I revoke all spiritual contracts with every branch of government for all of my past, present, and future lives. I do not consent to the rule of the privileged few. I revoke all rights, responsibilities, assumptions, presumptions, and signatures that retain me within the entirety of any or all governmental organizations, family crests, sacred geometry buildings, monuments, memorials, or military bases. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with a corporate-run government. I do not consent to any form of corporate government that harvests energy from its people. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the Federal Reserve families. I revoke all rights, assumptions, and responsibilities with every member of the Federal Reserve in exchange for value systems run by any government or corporate official. I revoke all spiritual contracts hidden within our government exchange for value system. I revoke all spiritual contracts with all government offices that use sacred geometry crests to retain power or insert fine print into my soul contracts. I revoke all rights, privileges, powers, assumed and unassumed, consented and unconsented, with every federal law enforcement branch that uses Federal Reserve energy to support the system of domination and control. I revoke all spiritual contracts that create consent from the government committees that determine quality of life. I revoke all rights, duties, responsibilities for all government systems that write laws that affect my spiritual contracts without my direct consent from my total DNA lineage ancestors, past, present, and future. I revoke all spiritual contracts that enable the government to use time travel as a means of domination and control. I revoke all rights, duties of all time traveler personalities, operations, systems, past, present, and future. I demand the immediate return of all government time travel personalities to their right and perfect timeline. I revoke all rights with all technologies that alter dimensions, to manipulate time streams, or do harm to any sentient life forms coexisting on Earth in all timelines and all dimensions. I do not consent to timeline wars. I do not consent to mass propaganda. I do not consent with war-based industrial complexes. I do not consent with the use of military to dominate and control. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts secretly interwoven to each and every law, past, present, and future. I do not consent to the passing of laws that affect soul family migration, soul family immigration, or systems that prevent me from uniting my complete and total soul family. I demand the instant return of all of my soul family that has been denied the right to coexist with me for all of my past, present, and future lives. I revoke all rights, rules, and laws that define soul family on a 3D matrix level. I return all definitions of soul family to Earth Mother. I revoke all rights to label soul families with sacred geometry linguistics that cross dimensions or realities. I revoke all spiritual contracts with all forms of sacred geometry linguistics, past, present, and future. I do not consent to the use of sacred geometry linguistics as a means of energy harvesting. I do not consent to the use of sacred geometry cities, infrastructure, linguistics, or artwork for the purpose of domination and control. I revoke all spiritual contracts that enable the government to dominate and control all people on any timeline or dimension in Earth Mother's realm. I revoke all assumptions or presumptions of power and caste systems. I revoke all spiritual contracts that define sentient life as cattle or commerce. I do not consent to my life force being used for any purpose that does not heal Earth Mother and promote unity consciousness among all sentient kind living and coexisting within Earth Mother. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is now in dominion with me for all forms of global government, interpersonal relations, or galactic relations for all sentient kind existing and coexisting on Earth Mother. I call forth all ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of our free will at all times.
Amen to that. Wow.
Right.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. I mean, imagine if we all did that, huh?
Exactly. Take your power away from the systems. I encourage people to use this as a framework or to make your own. I wrote these in my own personal truth and space and knowledge of the Akashic record so people can understand the skeletal framework of how deep it goes. And you need to reclaim your free will at every level. Take these and use these for your own purpose, your own definition. Use that anger. Demand your power back. Give it definition of where your power is and where it comes back to you.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question, Andrew, in reference to contracts, soul contracts, and all those contracts that, because you had mentioned something at one of the shows that I had listened to you, that I think you mentioned that when a being comes in through, or is born and comes in through the birth canal, is that when the contracts are imposed, or?
When a being is in the fetus stage, they can insert fine print contracts.
Okay.
But they first identify who you are with soul family, what your DNA lineage is, and what your potential sentience is. Like, quite literally, that's what the Karmic grid does. And before you get your stamp to come into Earth via the Archon grid, because it literally controls the immigration status here, there are other beings that will put a soul in that is just common, that has nothing, that it passes the Archonic grid no problem. And the very last second before the water is broken,
right,
that soul jumps out of the fetus, and another soul literally does a instantaneous projection in there. The water breaks, it gets born. And that's how you're able to get by. Example, both of you are examples of that. You're very powerful, high energy beings. that gave the middle finger to the Archon and figured out a way to get in.
That's very funny that you perceive that. I was wondering if you were going to mention something like that.
Did you say that we both gave the middle finger to the Archon?
Yes, he did. He did.
Oh, I'm glad you could see that, because I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, every breath I take, every single breath I take is about that, and I claim it so proudly. I really do.
Yeah, and I was wondering if there was a difference of being born through the birth canal as opposed to not being born through the birth canal, through a C-section process. Is there a difference?
Absolutely, okay. Huge difference. When you don't get to go through the birth canal, they rob you of something very important in the birthing process, and that's done on purpose.
What do they rob you of, do you know?
That energy of going through the birth canal, which is the final process of Earth's way of saying here. You go through the forgetting process in the birth canal. And when you don't get that forgetting process, you get a really scrambled brain.
Interesting.
You don't get to finish those last pathways of infinity to finite. You don't get that last moment of infinite dream world shared with the mother spirit as you're literally going through the birth canal.
Interesting.
And then they slap you on the ass, give you a bunch of vaccinations, and stick you in an incubator.
Right. Interesting. Wow.
And then cut the tip of your penis off.
Yeah. It's
horrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible.
Not natural.
No, it's not. We know this. Well, some of us do anyway. I wanted to get back to, you almost started to answer because you saw the question there. Why does salt and smudging with sage work to remove negative and painful energies? What kind of energies are affected by smudging and sea salt?
Well, first thing first, salt is the great neutralizer. It doesn't matter if any energies in polarity, positive or negative. Salt brings it to the neutral state where it can't flux in polarity. Negative entities are constantly dynamic in the polarity of very high negativity, middle negativity, low negativity, until such a time it gets a reaction out of the person that it's in or around, and then it creates a faster pulsation of sine wave that keeps it into a high state of polarity. And salt is the great neutralizer and prevents it from going to a high cycling state of negativity. And the sage and smudging literally creates a field of energy in which your will and intention is transferred into the smudging action, and it's like doing those contract revocations, except with different wording, and the smoke is the medium in which your sentience is being expressed.
Wow.
Well, I've never heard it quite explained that way, but I do know that they work. I do it all the time for years, ever since I discovered in 2009 that I was being psychically attacked my whole life. In fact, they were causing me migraines. Do you know what migraines are?
Yep. From age 8 to 13, I had migraines 3 or 4 days a week.
Aren't they horrid?
They're the worst thing in the world, and I wish them on no one.
They're horrid. I mean, even your enemy. I mean, I couldn't imagine anybody going, not even an enemy. It's terrible. But I had them my whole life, and then I was desperate, and there was a whole big situation that happened. When you're desperate, you will do anything. So I decided to do some smudging because they say it worked, and it worked. And then I took a sea salt shower immediately after because there were voices in my head that told me what to do, and I just did them because I was dying. And immediately it was all gone, and I've been doing it ever since, ever since 2009, and I have not had a migraine since.
Wonderful. I did not have anyone that was able to help me with migraines. My migraines were dealing with the fact that I have the entire Akashic record of everyone that I've ever met, and as well as a situation where I was at a baseball game in the bottom of the 9th inning, and the Cleveland team won, and I downloaded the Akashic record of absolutely everyone in that stadium and miles around into my brain, and then direct into my cellular memory.
Well, I can see how that would cause a migraine.
Yeah.
I can see, yeah.
4 years in a row.
Wow.
I was being rewired, retasked so that I could take in that concept and be able to work with it at such a young age. It's like learning how to speak 2 languages at a young age.
Sure.
That's what it was for me.
So
what the physical body couldn't handle it all.
What triggered that? The actual winning? The actual game?
The emotion of
really?
being least of the people.
Wow.
It just turned on my talent. I just
wow.
Went right into me.
That is amazing. So I have a question here. There's been some members of the site that Serena and I, are administrators of. They gave us some questions, but one is specifically, which I'm very curious of as well, is who is the being Jesus?
I get that question all the time. He's an entity that came from the sun that was here to provide an alternate choice for both the light and the dark forces here.
Interesting.
You have to understand the light forces here have gone so far into light polarity that they can no longer see the neutral perspective.
Right.
And the dark forces have gone so far into the dark polarity that they will only battle the light and anything that is opposite in any way, shape, or form of them. And this is where the light worker community, I've tried to reach out to it many times and describe that you're so far into the polarity of light that you're killing in the name of something.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jesus is a being that came here to brought balance to a system that was about to get really stupid crazy. And he did his best so people could understand that the teachings are within. He was about telling people of their sovereignty, that you don't have to have kings and lords and bankers tell you what to do. His teachings are wonderful, and I honor him at every level. But the religions that have been hijacked because of time travel wars, purposely creating documents that only use 10% of the truth, and the other 90% is meant to deceive you.
Yeah. All right.
So, Andrew, what does it mean the light polarity went so far into the light? What do you mean by that?
They're so up the butt of themselves that they can only see themselves and their mission.
Okay, there you go. Coming from a different person and totally, I didn't coax you into that, did I, Andrew?
Nope.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
What does that look like? What does that look like? If you can give an example for some,
I'll give an example. This is not a diss against Saint Germain, but in the last 20 years, I've met over 3,000 people that say, I am Saint Germain.
Yeah.
How many of you met that say, I am Saint Germain?
Oh, plenty.
There was a being that purposely did that so thousands of people would think they're Saint Germain. And that's a light being. And violated the sovereign free will of every entity that is now believing they're Saint Germain.
Okay, so you're saying this Saint Germain was real and a real light
it was a
being.
fake Saint Germain.
A fake
Saint Germain was all of the ascended masters were banished from this planet for a period of a few thousand years, so that you could ratchet down the craziness that was here, both light, dark, and neutral. There was no ascended masters on this world; they were gone. But there was a light being who said, "Well, I don't believe what the Prime Creator said. I'm going to make a bunch of imitation Saint Germains," and he declared himself as the Saint Germain, as a light being, and went around in people's dream worlds and said, "You're Saint Germain. I'm you. Be merry. Use your sovereign will to create yourself as Saint Germain."
Oh, okay.
And then it multiplied. There were other light beings who started doing the same thing, but were using different names.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
There is a real Saint Germain, and he's an incredibly powerful person and is very much disgusted at how his name's been used in vain.
I can see that. Absolutely.
By his own brethren in the light.
Yeah, a lot of fallen light there, huh?
That's right.
Yeah, and it's amazing how they speak to speak, they know how to speak it, but wow. And if you don't have that discernment,
that's right.
It's unbelievable. So who is Yod-Heh-Vod-Heh, otherwise known as Yahweh, and other names as Jehovah? Who are these beings?
You have your linguistics, and your interdefinition is based off of what's in our current definitions in linguistics. Yahweh, the one that you're describing, and all those other names that are associated, was a multidimensional being who was an angelic being who was here to murder people. Purely and simple. He was here to purify the DNA lineage so that the dark didn't have a breeding pool, and to lead a light force into the new breeding pool. The original Yahweh that was part of the Bible, that was completely hijacked personality. So you got to realize everything you know is a lie when it comes to that scenario during 2000 BC to 500 AD.
Yeah,
absolute lie.
Yeah, and I I was looking at that because there's a certain group. I don't know if you're familiar.
Genocidal maniac.
Yeah, that they worship a Yod-Heh-Vod-Heh, which happens to be, it supposedly they call it the prime creator.
That's a different entity, but they're using the sacred geometry linguistics to make you think it's all the same entity.
Exactly.
So those people out there that are a little perturbed at what I just said, it's your linguistics that are deceiving you.
Yep. But what got me was that this particular Yod-Heh-Vod-Heh and all the beings that work with Yod-Heh-Vod-Heh, supposedly, they're all in our local galaxy. They're all coming from the Orion Nebula area, and I find that a little bit like
actually they're
really
not coming from Orion.
Okay, so where are they coming?
The vast majority of the light beings, they're coming from Saturn, and Saturn is a domination and control planet of high energy religion.
Interesting. Well, according to what the group that I'm talking about, they're saying that they come out of Orion. So
I'm giving you my sacred neutral perspective.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
in the Akashic record of Earth, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
Right.
This isn't my opinion.
Sure.
This is me reading the sacred Akashic record live.
And it's not the first time I hear something about Saturn being involved with. Go ahead, Serena.
Yeah. We have noticed that there is an especially patriarchal stench that has been on this planet for a very long time. Can you address that?
Oh, yes. I've done many, many shows on empowering the sacred feminine and using the Akashic records to help women understand why a patriarchal system was put in place. Every woman on this planet that is born has a womb, and that womb is literally a portal into Earth Mother's sentience. And every time you have a menstrual cycle, it is an energetic and physical representation of the blood of Earth Mother and how it flows through you and how you can use that menstrual cycle to literally connect to the Earth Dreamtime sentience to resolve any problem within the feminine, sacred feminine, as well as any healing needed by the sacred masculine. By taking and dominating the sacred feminine and making it think it's sacred masculine, you have literally taken the power away of the graduating timeline of the feminine power to be the procreative power that uses its menstrual cycles to create healing and love beyond the factor of creating babies. The women have been dominated the worst, and there are many men that are born with sacred feminine in them. You know, we see that as bisexual or gay or ones that just don't know what they are. Okay? You know, the sacred feminine was taken from us because it's the fundamental part of the family system. And that family system was everyone in your family was supposed to be soul family. Well, when you dominated the mother, the sacred feminine, you were literally able to break soul families up. So people were incarnated into families that were literally not soul family.
Right.
That's why you have such dysfunctional families right now.
Yeah.
Because none of you are soul family. When soul family gets together, your power is increased 1,000-fold. And when you have a sacred feminine that's empowered, it's increased another 1,000-fold. The energy of the whole family is increased by every time soul family members come together.
I believe that the family unit is the most sacred unit in all the cosmos.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Huh. So, go ahead, Andrew. You were going to say something.
The women are meant to be the anchors into the sacred feminine. In their menstrual cycle, wherever they're at, it allows them to connect to the womb cave of the grandmothers of the past that are able to teach you about the lessons of all the children's of the past. And the men are opposite of that. They're meant to go out to sacred places and find the scent of Earth Mother and then commune with that place and bring that power back to the woman. That's why men are so constantly into sexuality, into a broken sacred feminine, and not knowing they can find the scent of Earth Mother, the true sacred feminine scent, out in sacred places, in places of power, and then bring that back to the woman and pollinate the woman so you can share that sacred power and increase the sacred feminine and masculine.
There you go. Those sacred places that you talk about are also mentioned in the Anastasia series of books. Anastasia talks about the dolmens. Mm-hmm. And how those wise women and the wise ones went in there and they died, literally died, but they kept their knowledge in that dolmen, in that place, so that it could be a place for acquiring this wisdom from their children and their ancestors, and for every race about how to live in sacred unity.
That's right. Beautiful words, the Anastasia books. I mean, I recommend absolutely everyone reads those before you're 12.
Oh, that's going to be next year for me.
I'm glad you read them. I didn't know you had read them. I'm glad you read them, so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
That's fantastic. Could you talk about the event?
I can talk about the event a lot.
Okay, wait. Wait. I know you can talk about that a lot. But before you start there, can you just briefly address what the Bermuda Triangle is?
Oh.
Yes, the Bermuda Triangle is a multidimensional portal that was created by a series of about 3,000 timeline cancellation events by different species that suddenly had an implosion nuclear reaction, and it created a massive paradox within paradox remedy reality that caused the unraveling of tens of millions of timelines in the local event and literally created a rip on the surface of Earth. And both the forces of light and darkness literally we're going to lose Earth unless we come together and do something positive to stop this. They summoned the ancestors of other places that came and put a patch there so that Earth was not literally sucked up into universal paradox and eliminated completely.
Interesting.
And there's also another one called the Dragon Triangle right outside of Japan, and there's another one around Moscow. There's about 20 of these spread around the Earth.
And what are they again? I'm sorry, I missed what it was.
There is a scenario where thousands of different species were using timeline wars to influence an event in that space, and none of them were in agreement that they were doing it, and the vast majority of them were in secret trying to counter the other's moves. And when you have so many timeline events occur in the exact same place, you create an omnidirectional paradox at that point there, followed up by them trying to use high-energy nuclear weapons to close the paradox.
So would that energy be spreading out into other areas? Because
it already did.
It already did. Feel it. Okay.
Oh, yeah. It already did.
Okay, explain.
Think of something that's omnidirectionally broadcasting in its specific area, but it's the reverse. It goes to the edges and brings energy into the center. So when they patched it up, instead of it turning into a black hole singularity on the surface of Earth, they basically made it into like an energetic whirlpool that's very low energy. So it's pulling energy towards it. And there's no portal there until the energy builds up and creates a micro portal. And that's why you see all these references of the tunnel or those ships disappearing, because as the energy builds up, it has to dissipate somehow. So what they did is they seeded these giant crystals under the water that can control the actual incoming energy of the patched up singularity. Basically, it was psychic surgery on a massive scale on the surface of Earth.
Wow.
That's intense. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So, did you want to take a quick 5-minute break, Andrew?
Yeah? I gotta go potty real quick.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll just pick up where we left off, and we'll talk about the event.
No problem.
Awesome.
All right, be right back.
Okay, so we're back. Andrew, we're going to be talking about that event, which is... it's the drum roll now, so we're all sitting in our the edge of our seats.
Well, the event comes in 4 phases, and it starts with us in dream time, understanding that the disunity consciousness paradox remedy reality we're in right now is literally the remedy for all the timeline genocide wars, all the timeline manipulation scenarios, timeline manipulation of propaganda. All of that is coming to a head where all of the players are playing their last move in the multidimensional game of timeline chess. And the only way to dissolve and redact and remove the remedy of a paradox that we're all stuck in is to literally for us to experience the infinity in dream time. Have either of you ever had a dream, taken a day nap when you thought you only slept 5 minutes and you woke up and it's 2 hours later and you had an incredible dream?
Oh, yeah.
This is the beginning of it, where people will get that. Where you'll have, two people walking down the street and they look at each other and go deja vu at the exact same moment.
Right.
And then the other guy says deja vu of you going deja vu, and the other guy goes deja vu of you having deja vu.
Right.
This is where disunity reality begins to break down on the individual level. And our dream time is where we'll be able to heal ourselves with the infinite energy of having to be in disunity paradox remedy reality. So the breakdown of this reality comes from us experiencing the dream world, knowing that our future selves, who cannot make choices because only the ever-present mighty I am self can make the choice of sovereign free will and remove themselves from disunity paradox remedy reality. So it comes in 4 stages where it starts with dreams. The children will be affected first. They'll go into their class before they go to school. They have that period where everybody has breakfast together.
Sure.
Or if you want, one kid will say, "Well, I had this dream," and another kid had said, "Oh, I had that same dream." And 3 or 4 people around the table, "I had the same dream," and that will spread all over the world. And domination and control can't stop people from sharing dreams at a breakfast table.
Right.
Okay, the most basic things like that. We have another person that has a car accident the night before, and when the doctor comes in the morning to check on him, the broken bones are healed because that person dreamed themselves healing the bones.
Wow.
Okay, you'll have another scenario where a newscaster will literally dream an event before it happens and will say it on air. You'll have other scenarios where adults that are in like nursing homes will experience their entire ancestral lineage and have life reviews while they're still alive, which will drastically change their entire paradigms and perceptions. It's at the individual level that the individual I am self experiences the infinity, and that individual I am self determines how they begin healing themselves of having to live in this paradox. So the event isn't geopolitical. The event isn't the choice of the forces of domination and control going, we give up. It isn't their choice. It's our individual choice. And how it evolves is we'll make a bunch of local realities that will house those people who aren't ready for the change. The world will begin to change, but some will never perceive a change, while others will perceive total change. It comes for that victory event that we've won. There will be many that have to experience that. And there are others that are waiting to get off and don't give a crap about the actual event.
Right.
They just want to go. They've been stuck here for millions of years and they're done.
Yeah.
Okay? But again, no one gets to go unless we all go at the same time. The next thing is we have off-world people that are very positive. They're trying to interact with us. The event, they'll be able to use the Earth Dreamtime sentience as a waypoint to begin communication with each other's, with us. They are our soul family. They've been prevented from incarnating with us. You'll recognize these beings simply by their light and their love. I mean, how many times have either of you met somebody, you just know who they are?
Yep.
Okay? The same thing comes with those off-world species. Just the inner knowing. And when the event begins to modify the way people think, and the system of domination and control is creating fear events or whatever else it tries to do in their last moves of multidimensional chess to instill propaganda, the whole point of them doing that is to influence the graduating timeline and where they're going to go. They want them to not go to where their soul family is. They want them to go to somewhere else. And if they can create a mythical piece of propaganda that's been in our history for 2 million years because they created it out of thin air,
right.
And there are people that are almost in their fullness of their sovereign free will, and then the reality collapses, they're going to go by the carrot and stick method.
Yep.
Okay? And then there are others that are going to go, no, we must go to where our natural heart's desire is, to return to our soul family status, to finish these relations and exchanges of soul codes so that we are complete in our soul families. So the event, it is a multi-dimensional Dreamtime-based event that has 4 phases in it. The first phase is the children sharing the dreams. The second phase is the adults experiencing massive deja vu, and then similar dreams as the children. The third phase is when the really hardcore religiosity people begin to have a breakdown of the religion because of its falseness. And then the fourth part is, we'll just describe it as when energetic air cities from the past that were locked out because of timeline genocide wars will begin taking place in the North Pole and the South Pole, and people will literally be able to physically project themselves up to these points, like by remote viewing, remote interpretation, or remote experiencing, and then begin the ambassadorial process of understanding who's soul family and who's not. By learning what is the truth through the Akashic record, by understanding that many sides have many different perspectives, and for us as the graduating timeline, we have to understand there are entire thousands and thousands of planets that their graduation and ascension is held up because of ours. Yeah. Because there's people that have been stuck here. Yeah. They're in a situation where they can't graduate simply because they don't have the fundamental pieces to graduate. Yeah. And we're those fundamental pieces, and we're going to be the healing for those other worlds. When I say healing, it's like I described. We're going to teach them how to be children, how to raise children, how to be pregnant, how to take care of children at a young age and not put them in incubators for hundreds of years. You know, if you have a woman that's 80,000 years old and never had kids, she doesn't understand, no matter how much she's observed us here on Earth. There are other situations where, like I've said, the genetic pools of these races has run completely out. They've scientifically exterminated any chance for them to procreate naturally. Yeah. And there's going to be true love events between one person there and a person here that literally spontaneously creates an energetic child, which allows soul family status to be created within that scientific creation. Many of these species have no link to a tree of life, have no link to a sacred feminine planet, because they've literally made their planet ships, and there's no sentience behind it other than the hive sentience they create through artificial technology. Yeah. And we'll teach them how to ask a sentience that's newly immigrated from another universe to come into their planet ships and literally be a sacred masculine or sacred feminine, so that their ships literally have a sentience behind it, inside it.
Wow. Where does that fit with the a lot of people saying that Prime Creator will be sending a pulse from the center, either the Great Central Sun or something to that effect? Is there anything like that you see?
Oh yeah, that already happened and is still happening. Okay. As I said, on March 20th to 22nd, 2013, there was an audit in which Prime Creator read every soul contract. Correct. At every level, and understood every part of the equation, and understands how to resolve the issues here. And then it then asked a series of very powerful sacred neutral beings to come in and be walk-ins for those people that were not agreeing to literally change. You know, there was a clause in there that said that he can create change by creating walk-ins. Okay. The thing is, when a high energy being walks in, it literally has to take over all of the spirit contracts that person is holding. Wow. And if you're, let's say, a senator or you're a high-end banker, you hold spirit contracts that literally is for the exchange for value system, and you're responsible for billions of people. Yep. Quite literally, the contracts of 1 billion people are stored in your soul. Okay, so those walk-ins, they're not going to have an easy time. Yeah. They are not. And as I was describing these multidimensional beings that were, at one point were 40% of the population, now they're 17%. They're a hive mind. And if a hive mind has a part of itself walked into, it has no clue that it's a walk-in. So that's another way of taking away the soul family status from these beings, so that we have enough of physical energy to begin claiming our sovereignty, because only in your true sovereign free will can you create unity consciousness. All beings must be of sovereignty at all times for unity consciousness to exist and to continue to coexist.
Okay. Now, everything is happening in dream time, from what you were saying a little bit ago.
And on the physical world, so we'll be able to manifest into this world. And there'll be many children who all of a sudden manifest talents that are undescribable. A 9-year-old kid who can put his hands on someone and cure cancer, simply because they had the dreamtime training from their guides.
Right.
The system can't stop those individual tutorings.
Yeah.
In the dream world.
Yeah. Now, I'm finding that when I go into the dream world, Andrew, I can't tell the difference. As a matter of fact, I don't want to come back. You know.
Right. And in many cases, that's what the event will be for people. They don't need to go back because they realize in the dream this is disunity, paradox, reality.
Right. Now, is that considered a parallel universe or parallel reality?
No, literally, we live in a paradox now.
Okay.
And because of all the timeline manipulations and genocide, the only remedy was to put us in this paradox of reality.
Okay.
And only in unity can we get out. Unity that comes through the dream time, because Earth is still a part of this equation.
Right. And this unity that you're talking about will hopefully happen regardless of whether a person, well, I don't think that's what you said, but whether a person's on the same page or not with respect to, hey, we've got to do this in unity. Is it going to happen regardless, or some people, like you said, will be in this category and some would actually...
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
There will be many of those that can't do it.
Gotcha.
But they will have the complete soul code, and their higher spirit knows the soul code. As I said, in disunity paradox, the higher spirit, the future self, doesn't make choices. Only the mighty I am present self can. But when you have a complete set of soul codes, you are always omnidirectionally projecting them. Okay. It's just the nature of the way our beings work. So whether the I am self is aware of it or not, you're still broadcasting the soul codes. And when all of us have the complete soul code of graduation, it triggers the graduation event. And then afterwards, we have the graduation Tegger party. Okay?
Right, there you go.
And then it comes to the term ascension, which I have repeatedly pulled up the rolled up newspaper and whacked it on the nose of the light workers that you're the ones holding us back. The term ascension was created as a literally way to limit our expression of what it is. What ascension boils down to is, once we get the graduation codes and once we understand the system of domination control needs to be unempowered, we must learn the subtle energy skills of healing, the subtle energy skills of our DNA. It's all within the record, from Qigong to Bakwa to Reiki to light healing to whatever the system of energy is. Right. The whole point of ascension is the most basic talent of learning how to manifest a physical body or unmanifest the physical body into energy form, so that you can project yourself to anywhere in the universe based off of the fact that your DNA lineage and your light body lineage have the soul codes to all solar systems in the universe. So that's the fundamental basics of understanding ascension. There are going to be many, many people that want to graduate and have the graduation code, but just don't have the wisdom and the subtle energy skills to read auras, to manifest or unmanifest the physical things that they need or desire, or know the difference between a need, a desire, and a want. Because those are the subtle energy skills that allow you to function in other worlds. You can't go there, not knowing how to read the aura of someone that's a completely telepathic being, because the reading of aura is integral to understanding the telepathy. All of that is intertwined. And then there'll be other situations where, as you're learning telepathy, you are communicating with your mind and then literally singing to the person back and forth, because that adds the accentuation and expression that telepathy cannot express.
How beautiful
all of those,
is that? That is so beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's the subtle energy skills of the graduates that you need to learn. And again, we have it here, but the volume of energy, the amperage of energy in the Earth grid is so low that learning those subtle energy skills without your fullness of sovereign free will is infinitely harder. It means you have to be like Bodhidharma in a cave for 30 years, or you have to do those things that separate you from the system so you can gain the wisdom and knowledge to understand that those subtle energy skills require a tremendous amount of energy to learn, and then a tremendous amount of energy to do for the first few dozen times.
Right.
And then once you've done them, your energy is so high that it becomes very simple.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Andrew, what would you say to somebody who has felt that they already know what it feels like to become an energy form and to manifest wherever they want to in the universe?
I would call that remote experiencing. And it's a subtle energy skill that we've had since the very beginning of our DNA skin suits. And it's one of the skills that is so vitally sought after. That's why our skin suits are so valuable. Huh. If you can remote experience anywhere in the universe, do you really need to leave?
Right. Good point. Now, what about some of people that claim that they are 5-dimensional beings here on the planet? Is there such a thing?
There is 5th, 6th, and 7th dimensional beings that are locked in disunity, paradox, remedy, reality, and can't get out. And are doing whatever they can do to tell people that this is screwed up. But at the same time, there are people that believe they're these beings, but aren't, simply because of vanity and misuse of information and deception of information that's made them think they're that, and then they have their streams hijacked by an artificial intelligence that feeds them vanity and ego. Okay? Here's another example. We are the avatars here, and we can make pieces and parts that live on other worlds. And then there are other people that have just fragments of themselves here on this world. That's like 25% of them is here and 75% of them is somewhere else.
Right.
And that somewhere else is stuck until it gets its soul fragment back.
Yep.
So, yes, there are beings that like that. And I've met many of them. I met a woman in a private reading yesterday. She's a 3 million-year-old being that was part of the original seed system of soul families. She's one of the founding mothers of our world.
Wow.
You know, and she only had parts of the story, and when I began to read her Akashic record, I was just filled with this energy. We were both crying our eyes out as we realized we've known each other since forever.
Right.
And at the end, where it's like lacing up the shoes and pulling it tight, and the story made perfect sense, is where we began to understand why we came together at that exact moment in disunity, paradox, reality.
Wow.
We were both part of the timeline genocide wars, and we both knew we were going to lose all of our fragments if we stayed in here, and we said, screw it, we're doing it, we're all in, we're never leaving until we all graduate.
A lot of us did that.
That's right.
Yeah. I can kick myself sometimes, though. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Gosh, I had a question and it kind of like went out the window.
I do get that every now and then.
I got emotional with the whole thing. It's like, wow. So are there parallel universes or parallel realities or no?
There's all of that, but it's a matter of perception and understanding that we're still in disunity, paradox, remedy reality. And when we get out of it, we'll be exposed to alternate dimensions, alternate universes, or the fact that there's 17 universes that are migrating souls between each other.
So, Andrew, what do you think is going to be triggering this event again?
Dreams on an individual basis. And then I've said this many, many, many times. When you see people out marching in the same scale and size of the 1960s and 70s, you know that it's coming. Huh. And that's already here. It's just our media won't report it. And that's a classic example of reality manipulation and control. When America is at that point, it's the tipping scale, because America, its purpose was to put the high energy beings in the lowest energy state. That's why we're fat and watching TV all the time.
Well, I don't know if I don't know if
soul family.
Yeah, I don't know if America's uncomfortable enough to be able to do that yet, huh?
No, it is. It's just, it has to spark, and it sparks on the grassroots level when people start saying, on an individual level, I'm experiencing this, and the local people saying, I'm experiencing it too, and then the local media has no choice but to report on it. You'll see mass quittings in the media simply because they're not gonna support the lie anymore.
Yeah.
Ari, didn't we talk something about that in our last talk?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we sure did.
We only got a couple minutes left here. I'd like to read the other contract revocations from media. Okay. This is the contract removal from media systems.
Okay.
I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present, and future beings, selves, and existence in this dimension and time stream, all time streams above and below the earth-centric sine wave of coexistence. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestors to create a unified, proper spiritual court of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that have inserted fine print during the birth and pre-birth processes. I call forth the proper spiritual court of equity to hear my decree of contract removal. I revoke all spiritual contracts with earth-based media systems using domination and control as a means of energy harvesting, fear instigation, or reality manipulation with energetic propaganda technologies. I call forth all ancestors of all soul relations to hold space in this proper spiritual court of equity. I call to Earth Mother and all her light denizens within all inner and outer space to come forward and occupy the spiritual court of equity. O great mystery is the source of all power. I call to you. Come with your sacred synchronicity, so all beings may hold space with unity consciousness. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with all media personalities that do not have the use of their free will and full knowledge of their DNA ancestry. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with all media agencies, corporations, and media-based family crests. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts, assumptions, presumptions, and statistical models that predict my habit patterns, the use of commercial advertising intertwined with the system of domination and control. I do not consent to etheric grid broadcasting over public airwaves, television, internet, radio, or any other means or methods that propagate propaganda for mass consumption. I do not consent to predictive modeling by etheric or commercial means. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with all media-based sacred geometry buildings. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the sacred geometry media presidents, shareholders, news anchors, news reporters, pundits, talking heads, and all representations of government officials with the entire global media network. You have no power over me with your presumptions of knowledge. We are manifesting, co-creating spirits. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with all news regurgitating systems, crawlers, websites, search engines, print media, and all forms of etheric propaganda used within all these systems. I revoke all presumptions of consent with all media agencies. I revoke all assumptions with all advertising agencies that are funded by the system of domination and control. I do not consent with any advertising system targeting soul groups, soul migrations, or the spiritual incarnation process. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts that limit the genetic free-willed expression of all sentient kind. I revoke all spiritual contracts that define the media as our tellers of oral traditions or generational teachers. I revoke all contracts with the sacred geometry satellite broadcasting system. I revoke all contracts with the etheric artificial intelligences that use sacred geometry satellite systems as a means to hijack my information stream. I do not consent to psychic monitoring or influencing from any media system that services the system of domination and control. I hereby demand the instant removal of all broadcast-based psychic parasites and their propagation and harvesting system that creates herds of psychic parasites. I revoke all contracts that use my life force as a false form of consent for the propagation and spreading of psychic parasites within all my DNA soul relations. I hereby revoke all soul contracts that grant the media the power to last beyond one generation of history. I demand all light, all rights of generational knowledge be returned to the soul family structure. I demand the return of our history in a complete and transparent manner so there will never be any more secrets from our people. I hereby revoke all rights, duties, and responsibilities and current actions of all media personalities. Your services are no longer required. I revoke all privileges that grant the media families any power over my soul contracts, soul family, or soul-based migration patterns. I revoke all rights to any media system based in domination and control from ever returning within my soul family structure for all past, present, and future lives. I hereby demand the instant cessation and removal of all false information from all media. I hereby demand that any and all future distribution of information over all forms of media absolutely embodies truth, integrity, and transparency in perpetuity. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is now in dominion with me for all local or mass media information exchange systems. I call forth all the ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter into Earth Akashic record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of our free will at all times.
Amen. Absolutely. Wow. Andrew, thank you so much for being, first of all, for being on our show, and number two, for everything that you do. You're amazing and beyond amazing. So we've come to the end of our show today. I'm hoping that, I know it's really hard to get you, but hopefully we can get you.
We'll do another one. When I have powerful people that can ask powerful questions with wisdom and knowledge beyond them, it allows me to open the Akashic record up to another layer.
Absolutely.
And another layer. There are times that I have to speak in layers to people because what I bring out literally puts them to sleep.
Yep. I can definitely get
in this situation, the two of you held sacred feminine space that made it very easy for me to go deep into the Akashic record and to bring out what the live audience and archive audience needs.
Absolutely, and I did see that, absolutely. Are you doing any more personal bookings?
Yes, you can go to my website, andrewbartzis.com. I will have an automated booking system that will take care of it.
Okay.
And you can get through the form there, and you'll get an email back from the admin system there.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you very much for joining us. This is Ari Kopel and Serena with Shattering the Matrix. Hopefully we'll have Andrew once again on our show and to expand just basically blow our minds, because this is like the most unbelievable interview I've had in a long time. But Andrew, thank you again. You can catch us again next Saturday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And thank you so much again for joining. Good night.
Thank you. Love you all, both of you.
Thank you. Love you.
Love everyone out there. Stand in your sovereign free will.
Amen.
Yes, will do. Thank you.
Amen.
You've been listening to Shattering the Matrix with your host, Ari Kopel and Serena. Please visit our website, 2012emergence.com. That's 2012emergence.com. Find us on Twitter at Matrix Shattered, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Shattering the Matrix. Listen to archived shows at blogtalkradio.com/Shattering the Matrix. And join us next time for the birth of the new golden era on Shattering the Matrix.